Whoa, the sun is out. That means it's time to get rid of these windows. Most people, when they're building a camper van, they cut holes in their van to put in windows. I'm doing the opposite. I'm filling holes. I want this van to be the bat cave. So they're held in, not by much. I pulled off that piece of aluminum trim back there. The window is basically ready to come out. I mean, there's already a gap around it. I think it's just glued in place. I would like to get this thing out in one piece because I don't want to break it. And who knows, maybe I can sell it on the internet. Woohoo! Look at that. Ooh. Broke out the half grit sandpaper today. So if you haven't seen, PJ and I went to the junkyard and we grabbed the sides of a van. Those van sides are going to fill these voids. I'm going to be butt welding these sheet metal patches onto this thing. But before I do it, I need to cut it down to the right size. This is a 43-inch this way, and it's a big patch, okay? So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to lay the metal on top of it, just with an inch overlap, tack it down, and then cut at the seam and re-tack it to pull it in tighter. Because that's the only way I can think of doing it, other than like replacing the whole side of the van, and I'm not trying to do that. This will work. You notice I had some like running rust and everything. It was in pretty rough shape. So before I talk my head off, I'm gonna get to cutting on this. And with the piece all cut, the next step is to clean up all the edges, because you want a nice surface to be able to weld on. So we'll clean up the front and back of this sheet and clean up the van because it's pretty rusty. All right, got some bare metal around the van and on the patch panel. Going to use my welding magnets to stick it up there, and hopefully that'll hold it for me to get a couple tacks up. So the plan is now I'm going to take my cutting disc and go in at an angle like this to cut the back piece of metal, but yet using the one I welded up as the rest for it, and do a little bit at a time, then tack it, cut more, tack it, cut more, and tack it until it's nice and flush. So that's what I'm going to work on now. I've got a lot of it done. So these are my first pass tacks where it's nice and flush. So this is like it. There's no seam here. I managed to get the trim line pretty good as well too. So I'm pretty proud of that. I had to cut this spot out again because it developed. Well, there was a dent here that was pushed all the way in. I pulled the dent out, and I welded it prior to doing that, so I got to re-weld it. Just this little corner. But I've worked all the way along. Coming up here, I had a cutting disc blow up on me as well. Look at that, chunks of cutting disc. Tomorrow I will start up right here and continue up in the top. I'm a little concerned with the door arm in the way, so that's gonna be fun to get around. I'll probably have to cut down, because remember there is an inch gap under this. Once I get everything kind of first tacked for the first time, I'm gonna grind it down, tack it again, grind it down, tack it again, just to get as much of a solid seam as I can. Like, I'm still gonna use Bondo because, you know, I'm not perfect at this. I'm not even that good. Bondo will cover a lot of my mistakes, so I'll use Bondo and I'll prime it, just the edge. I'll leave the letters up for the dirt bike race, just to Absol contract, Ed insured. Oh yeah, and the coolest part, so as I'm going and cutting it back, this is the original wall. It's day 2. Yeah, it doesn't appear to have finished itself overnight, so that kind of sucks. But anyway, we're gonna get started on welding this thing again, cutting and welding and cutting and welding. Just finished doing the first set of tacks all around, and look at this. Just comes off. That's my window. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up the inside welds, do some grinding, and do some tacking on the outside, because I gotta pull this panel out some. The seams are all the way welded. There are some holes in it, but they're like really small. Like right here, there's a hole. I'm going to prime it just to like seal it from flash rusting, because I'm not gonna be able to work on it next couple days. But seal it with some primer, and then I'll Bondo it because got some heat warpage going on. Not too bad, but it's definitely sealed. Man, it felt good to get that side done. Well, it's not really done, but it's sealed. If you're wondering how many tack welds it took, look at all of these. Each of them is an individual little bzz, bzz. Took all day to do the whole thing, and there's still tiny little gaps. Those gaps will be filled with Bondo. It's no big deal. It is structurally solid. It's great. Oh yeah, look at the mess I made too. Good thing this is why I held off putting anything in here. It's just dust, metal debris, and metal flakes everywhere. It's disgusting. You may think this is the end of the video. I have to do another side. Shoot. Man, I tell you what, these impact drivers, these things are amazing for getting out these stubborn screws. Just gone. So I'm taking out this window now. This is some indication of how well it was sealed. Look, there's like pine needles and dead stuff all up in here. I mean, there's some glue right here. But I can push this out, no problem. Look at that. You see daylight out there already. And the cuts are just awful. This van didn't have windows back here. From the factory, I guess. Or if it did, it had the other style ones. Because these look like to be like Econoline van windows. So I don't know how they got in the Chevy. I'm gonna miss my sticker. I was gonna make these are gonna be sticker windows, but I didn't want to see out of them. Guess I have to do something else. Pulled metal off with it. Look at that terrible cut. Jeez. Oh my gosh, that was a filler. I'm glad I'm replacing these. Oh. Got everything all cleaned up and ready for installation of the wall. One thing that PJ and I didn't take account of was when we cut that panel. You know, the other side has the little lip on it for the slider door. This, to be more specific. When we measured this panel, we tried to cut it as high as we could, but because of that lip, we couldn't get all the way up. So it's about 1 inch short. So when I weld it up, it's going to be about this much of a gap right here. I mean, that's a problem, but I've got enough excess sheet metal that it shouldn't be an issue. So I've got it tacked in. I even got the body lines really good, nice and level all the way across. I do have a little gap I'm gonna fill. The way I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this panel in nice and flush first, and then I'll weld a piece back here and just put some body filler on it. It'll be no big deal. All right, so yesterday I got this thing tacked in place. Today I'm gonna be cutting and grinding and cutting and grinding to get this thing to sit nice and flush against the van. Get rid of this lip right here. I do the same thing where I use my grinder at an angle, go in, tack it back down, and just repeat, repeat, repeat. So far this side is going a lot smoother than the other side went. Look how close that seam is right there. One thing I feel is the actual cut. I've got it pretty dang good. Just gonna do that all the way up and around it. So I give it a cut, and then I push on it until it's nice and flush, and then I tack it, and then keep working my way up. The pace is going really good today. I even got it stitched up top just a little bit. It looks like this gap isn't that bad. So, but a 1-inch strip of sheet metal, just weld it in place. So now that I got this side done, I'm gonna work and pull the panel down here, and then I'll tighten the panel up on this side. Man, look at that. It's not even welded. It's just, since I've welded this down here, every time I make a cut, it just falls right into the groove. I'm just working my way up. This is amazing. This is way better than the other side. Got it tacked 1/3 the way around. The only spot that it did kind of warp is up here, right in here. That's all right. I'm gonna cut a small strip to weld in that little gap. Then I'm gonna grind this thing flush, tack it some more, and then primer it. And then while this side is drying with primer, I'm gonna Bondo the other side. All around, even got the hole filled up top. Time to grind for 3 hours. So other than the top, where I filled with a piece of scrap metal, this side isn't going to need that much body filler. But this side, oh my gosh. I think I'm getting it close. I've got to do a couple coats of it before I sand it down. Luckily this side didn't warp too much. It's pretty good. Slight warpage, but yeah, not much at all. Not like the other side. Lunch is served. This is the situation. I have run out of Bondo. I want to do it like a perfectionist right now, and it really doesn't need that. It just needs to be sealed. And what I did was I went around and I sealed everything. I'm going to hit with some primer and come back to this in the summertime when the weather is much more appropriate for painting. The reason I'm doing this, I've got to be at a race. I got to meet up with PJ tomorrow. I did it. I got rid of my windows. There they are right there, just hanging out. This side has been the Bondo consumer. It is a significant, like, was it like a recess right here? I'm having to fill up. It's a big old void. It's kind of here and here. It's like sunken in. When I try to pop it out, it'll leave a bulge. I don't like that. I'd rather just be able to fill it with Bondo. It won't look too bad with just the primer. I mean, the paint job already looks terrible. So what's a little more to add to it? I'm going to leave the tan and the snail trails there. Just primer the bare metal and Bondo. This doesn't look like a window anymore. And I don't think I can break this. Not going to put a dirt bike handlebar through it anymore. good. That'll do for a little bit. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. You should consider sticking around and subscribing. You know, I've got a lot more to do to this thing. Doing inside, outside, I guess. To fill your windows, it's a lot of work. It can be done, obviously. For those of you that hate having those windows or you just have to have curtains, you can't really build anything off of a window. Well, that'll about do it for this video. The attempt to color match was a poor choice. Whoops.